Have you ever wondered how cruelty hides behind laughter? Or how some people find pleasure in the suffering of others? Today's story, The Donkey. In this story, we follow two men who live by trickery and theft, wandering the rivers of France, living off whatever they can find. But one day, they decide to have some fun, and what begins as a simple prank turns into something far more disturbing. It's a story that shocks, disturbs, and makes us ask what happens when people lose their humanity. So, as you listen, don't just hear the words, feel the message behind them. It was early morning. A heavy mist covered the river like a soft white blanket. Everything was quiet. The air was still, and even the sound of water was faint. Two men were rowing a small old boat through the fog. Their names were Chicot and Mayocan, but people often called them by nicknames, Labawus and Maloche. These men lived a rough life. They were poor, lazy, and dishonest. Sometimes they fished, sometimes they hunted, but most of the time they stole. They called themselves junk gatherers, but really, they took whatever they could find, or whatever they could get away with. That morning, they had already caught a few fish and one rabbit. The river was calm, and the mist was beginning to rise. Then, they saw something moving slowly on the road by the riverbank. A woman dragging a tired donkey. The poor woman looked exhausted. Her clothes were old and dirty, and she was pulling the animal with all her strength. The donkey's legs trembled. It could hardly walk. Chicot shouted from his boat, jokingly, "Hey there, sister, where are you going with that fine donkey?" "To a race." The woman looked up sadly and replied, "No. I'm taking him to be killed. He's too old to work anymore." Chicot grinned and said, "How much will they give you for him?" "Maybe 3 or 4 francs, the woman answered. "Tell you what," said Chicot, pretending to be kind. "I'll give you 5 francs, and you 1 tea have to walk all that way." The woman hesitated. It seemed like a good offer. After all, 5 francs was more than she expected, so she agreed. Chicot gave her the money, and she handed over the donkey. She sat by the road, curious to see what they would do. But the two men had no pity. They weren't buying the donkey for work. They wanted to have fun by being cruel. Mayocan loaded his gun and laughed. "Let's have some fun, sister. Let's see if the old donkey can dance." He fired a shot at the donkey's ears. The small pellets only stung, but the animal shook its head in pain. The men burst out laughing. The woman cried out, "Stop it, you're hurting him." But they threatened her, saying, "We paid for it, it's ours now. Go away before we give you the same." The woman, frightened, walked away, still shouting curses and tears of anger. The men kept shooting, one after another. The donkey tried to escape, but could barely move. He staggered, brayed loudly in pain, and fell to the ground. Chicot laughed so hard he could barely breathe. Then, with a horrible smile, he pushed the gun barrel into the donkey's mouth and said, "Here, drink this, my friend." He pulled the trigger. The shot echoed over the water. The donkey kicked, trembled, and then went still. Blood came from its mouth. It was dead. The two men wiped their hands, still laughing. "That was too quick," said one. "Didn't even get our money's worth." They dragged the donkey into their boat, covered it with grass, and went to sleep. Later that night, they rowed toward a village called Maisons-Sluffet. They stopped at a wine shop owned by an old man named Jules. He often bought animals and meat from hunters. Chicot sold him the rabbits they had caught. Then, pretending to be secretive, he said, we might have something else. Something big. The old man's eyes widened. Big. What is it? A deer. Chakot shrugged. Could be. Might not be. We don't really know what it is. We shot it in the forest, but we couldn't carry it all the way here. If you want it, it's still there. We'll tell you where. The innkeeper was suspicious. How do I know it's real? Chakot smiled. You don't, but we'll make you a deal. Pay us 20 francs, and if there's nothing there, we'll give your money back. After a long talk, the man agreed and gave them 20 francs. The two men left laughing. The next morning, the innkeeper went to the place they described. He pushed through the bushes, and there he found it. Not a deer, not a wild animal, just a dead donkey, rotting in the grass. He had been tricked. Moral of the story. This story shows the dark side of human nature, how cruelty and greed can destroy kindness. The two men laughed at the pain of an innocent creature, and then they cheated another person for money. They thought they were clever, but in truth, they were empty inside, without heart, without mercy. The lesson: those who find joy in the suffering of others lose the most important thing a human can have, a conscience. True happiness never comes from hurting others, only from kindness and compassion.